The idea of a simple life often sounds strange to many people, especially to those who've spent their entire lives dealing with scarcity. When someone who's already had access to comfort says that less is more, it can seem naive or even dishonest. In many cases, simplicity only starts being valued after the person has already had money, choices, and possibilities, lived through excess, and realized that it didn't fulfill as promised. For those who've always lived with little, this talk can sound like privilege, as if the simple life were just an elegant version of lack. But there's an important difference that's almost never discussed. There are those who arrive at simplicity only through exhaustion, and there are those who arrive through understanding. The understanding that the emptiness they feel isn't born from a lack of things, but from the expectation that having more would solve something that's internal. This emptiness remains even when goals are achieved, when desires are satisfied, when what seemed essential finally arrives. It's at this point that Epicurus's philosophy becomes relevant. He advocated for a life where desires are understood, not automatically obeyed. This video is an invitation to clarity, understanding why detachment can become the greatest wealth someone can have, and why a simple life is born from consciousness, never from scarcity. Epicurus was born over 2,000 years ago, but became known for an idea that's still misunderstood today. He advocated for pleasure, but not the kind most people imagine. For him, living well meant eliminating what disturbs the mind, and most of what disturbs comes from within, from fear, from desire that never ends, from the constant feeling that something's missing. Many people live chasing a pleasure that, when achieved, quickly dissolves, giving way to a new desire and then another without pause or closure. Epicurus called these empty desires, those that promise to fulfill but only increase restlessness. True pleasure for him was the absence of pain and disturbance, the capacity to feel peace. This type of pleasure doesn't require great achievements, external approval, or constant accumulation. Living well is living with tranquility, and tranquility is born when you stop being dominated by what you desire, when your real needs are met and you realize you don't need more than you have to be well. Epicurus lived very simply. He ate bread, water, and sometimes a bit of cheese because he realized that was enough. Any small addition became intense, celebrated. His life was freedom. Freedom from not depending on things outside his control, from not living in fear of losing what he had, from not needing to chase endlessly. The foundation of Epicurean philosophy lies in this understanding. Needing less isn't an obligation, it's clarity. There's a pretty common illusion that the more you have, the better you live, that happiness grows along with your bank account, that security and freedom come from accumulation. But reality is different. Having more often means worrying more, managing more things, making more choices, protecting more possessions. The more you own, the more you start to fear loss, and the fear of losing can be even more disturbing than the loss itself, because fear is constant while loss is momentary. Many people who accumulate material goods discover this too late. They buy the bigger house, the better car, the more expensive clothes, and realize that the feeling of security didn't come with it. On the contrary, more anxiety came, more bills, more responsibilities, more comparison with those who have even more. Have you noticed how those who have more always seem to be checking alarms, insurance, investments? The problem lies in the belief that these things will bring calm, in the expectation that the next object or achievement will finally fill the void. But it never fills it. The void is existential. Lack of meaning, lack of clarity, lack of purpose. And that's resolved with understanding, never with acquisition. Those who lived in pursuit of wealth, power, recognition, remained restless even when they achieved everything, because life became fuller, more complicated, heavier. Living well is about reducing weight, dependence, and worry, finding stability in something that can't be taken from you. And that's in your way of seeing life, never in things. There's a confusion that needs to be cleared up. Simplicity isn't the same as scarcity. Scarcity is lack, imposed limitation. It's when you'd like to have more but can't, when your basic needs aren't met and you live with less than you need to be secure. Simplicity is conscious choice. It's when you could have more but realize you don't need it, when your needs are met and you feel that nothing essential is missing. This difference is fundamental because many people judge the simple life as romanticizing poverty, as if it were easy to defend simplicity when you've never experienced need. This criticism makes sense in many cases, but the central question is on another layer, freeing yourself from the illusion that you need a lot to live well, understanding real needs, and stopping chasing desires that never end. Those who live in scarcity didn't choose to live with little. Life imposed that. Those who live in simplicity chose to reduce the weight, focus on the essential, and not let desire command their decisions. This doesn't invalidate the suffering of those struggling to have the basics, but it shows that having more than the basics doesn't guarantee peace, satisfaction, or happiness. Many people who have everything still feel something's missing, and that something is internal. The capacity to be at peace with what they already have, to not need external validation, to not live chasing the next achievement. Simplicity, in this sense, is freedom. Freedom from not depending on things that can be taken, from not living in fear of losing, from not needing more to be well. This freedom is available to those who understand their desires, separate the essential from the superfluous, and realize that living well is about needing little, never about having everything. Not every desire comes from you. Many are learned, created, implanted by messages you receive from early on, through advertising, through social comparison, through the pressure to appear successful. There's a clear distinction between natural desires and empty desires. Natural desires are born from your own need, hunger, thirst, shelter, security, companionship. When satisfied, they bring relief, calm, and don't ask for more. Empty desires never end. You can satisfy them once, but soon they return amplified, more demanding, more urgent. They're desires born from comparison, from created dissatisfaction, from external promises that you'll be happy if you have that. Think about the last phone you bought. In the first week, it seemed perfect. After a month, you were already looking at the newer model. How long did the satisfaction last? When you have it, happiness doesn't come, just a new desire comes, and the cycle continues. This is the mechanism that keeps many people trapped, working non-stop, accumulating non-stop, spending non-stop, always searching for something that doesn't satisfy because it wasn't a real need, just an invented necessity. Society functions based on this, on constant stimulation of desire, on the creation of new needs, on the message that you're never enough, that your life is never enough, that you always need more clothes, more technology, more experiences, more status. And every time you satisfy one of these desires, another emerges. This race has no end. There's no victory in it, only exhaustion. The proposal was different. Understand your desires, recognize which are real and which are just noise. When you separate one from the other, life becomes simpler. You stop chasing things that don't matter. Stop spending energy on desires that will never satisfy you, and start focusing on what really brings inner stability. Wanting with consciousness means choosing your desires instead of being chosen by them. There's a moment many people go through. It's when you finally achieve what you've wanted for so long. The dream job, the ideal relationship, your own house, recognition. And soon after comes a strange feeling, an emptiness, a silent question. Was that it? You expected that achievement to change everything, to bring lasting happiness, to fill the emptiness you felt. But it only brought temporary relief, and soon the emptiness returned. Modern psychology has a name for this: hedonic adaptation. It's the process by which the human brain quickly returns to its stable level of happiness after any positive or negative event. You achieve something, happiness rises, the brain adapts, happiness returns to the previous level, and a new desire emerges. Researchers like Brickman and Campbell, who studied lottery winners and people who achieved great material accomplishments, discovered that within a few months these people returned to the same level of satisfaction they had before. The achievement didn't fail. The expectation was what was wrong. Epicurus perceived this over 2,000 years ago, without laboratories or scientific studies. He called it unstable pleasure, a pleasure that depends on external factors, that arises when you achieve something and disappears soon after, leaving you again in search of the next thing. Modern science confirmed what he already observed. This type of pleasure never completely satisfies because it doesn't resolve the central question. The question isn't what you have, but what you expect that to do for you. Many people expect external achievements to solve internal issues, that success will cure insecurity, that money will cure fear, that recognition will cure the feeling of not being enough. But none of this cures, it just disguises for a while. Researchers like Sonia Lyubomirsky showed that external changes have temporary impact, while what sustains well-being is mental state, never acquisition. Ed Diener demonstrated that income and consumption have limited impact after a certain point. More money doesn't generate more continuous happiness. The emptiness you feel doesn't come from lack of achievements, but from lack of clarity, purpose, inner peace. And that's resolved by understanding that you're already enough, that your life already has value, that you don't need to prove anything. Stable pleasure is that which doesn't depend on achievements, which remains when circumstances change, which is based on inner tranquility. It comes from living without fear, from not depending on external validation, from being at peace with who you are, from having your basic needs met without needing more. When you live like this, external achievements can still happen, but they don't define you, don't determine your peace, don't fill a void that never truly existed. You realize the void was just the belief that you needed more, and when that belief disappears, the void disappears with it. If you're afraid of losing something, it's because you're attached. And attachment brings insecurity, anxiety, and suffering, because everything you're attached to can be taken. While you have it, you live in fear of losing it. Attachment is a form of prison that limits your freedom and keeps you hostage to things outside your control. When you're attached, you don't live fully. You live in fear that the situation will change, that the person will leave, that the money will run out, that recognition will disappear. This fear occupies mental space, emotional energy, life. Many people live clinging to things that can be lost, and the fear of losing is so intense, it steals the pleasure of having. You have, but don't enjoy, because you're busy protecting, securing, worrying. That's not life. It's constant tension. The proposal was radical for its time and continues to be today. Live in a way that you're not afraid to lose. This means not depending emotionally on anything, not making your possessions the source of your peace, your relationships the source of your identity, your achievements the source of your value. Attachment makes you believe you need that to be well, that without it, you're not complete. But that's illusion. You're already complete. You always were. What you have or don't have doesn't change that. When you live like this, you're free to enjoy what you have while you have it, to let go when necessary, to not live in fear. If the person stays, great. If they leave, you remain well. If money comes, great. If it doesn't come, you know how to live with less. If recognition arrives, great. If it doesn't arrive, your peace doesn't depend on it. Tranquility is a state where you're not disturbed, not shaken, not dominated by fear, because you don't depend on anything external to be well. Your needs are met, your mind is calm, and you know that even if everything changes, you'll still be well because you learn to live with little. And those who live with little fear live with much peace. Not all pleasure is equal. Some calm, others agitate. Some bring peace, others charge a price. Immediate pleasure isn't always the best pleasure. Often it comes accompanied by consequences you only notice later. Eating too much brings immediate pleasure, but then comes discomfort. Spending beyond what you have brings immediate pleasure, but then comes anxiety. Seeking external validation brings immediate pleasure, but then comes dependence. These pleasures are bad when they ignore what comes after, when you choose without considering the cost. The logic is simple. What makes you feel good now can make you feel worse later. And if the final balance is negative, it's not worth it. Think about it. That impulse to buy something you don't need. At the moment, it seems essential. You feel relief, satisfaction. But 2 days later, when the bill arrives, satisfaction turns to regret. The pleasure cost more than it was worth. Or that argument where you let out everything you're feeling without filter. In the moment, it seems liberating. But later, when the relationship is shaken, you realize the outburst cost you peace. The wisest pleasure is that which doesn't bring pain afterward, which doesn't generate regret, which doesn't charge anything in return. This requires discernment, thinking beyond impulse, evaluating what that pleasure will bring long term. Many people live on autopilot, seek immediate pleasure without thinking of consequences, and then suffer with the result, feel trapped, out of control, hostage to their own impulses. The proposal was conscious control, deliberate choice, pleasure that doesn't charge. This means living intelligently, knowing when to say yes and when to say no, knowing what's really worth it and what only seems worth it. When you do this, your life stabilizes. You stop being dominated by your desires and start understanding them, choosing consciously. And choosing consciously is real power. It's knowing you control your impulses, not the other way around. The less you need, the freer you are. This truth comes from a simple understanding. Each need is a dependency, and each thing you need is something that can control you. If you need a lot of money to live, you depend on a lot of money, and that limits your choices, your freedom, your peace. If you need constant approval, you depend on others' opinions, and that controls you, makes you live based on what others think. If you need luxury to feel good, you depend on luxury, and that ties you to a life that demands more and more. Living with very little was purposeful, a search for freedom. Freedom to live without fear, to make choices without being dominated by created needs, to not depend on anything that could be taken. Real freedom isn't in having money to buy what you want, but in not needing almost anything to be well. When you reduce your needs, you increase your autonomy. You stop depending on a job you hate, on a relationship that wears you down, on validation that never comes, and start depending only on the essential, simple food, basic shelter, health, true companionship, things you can maintain with little effort, without constant sacrifice. That's wisdom. It's the understanding that less dependence means more peace, that the lighter you live, the easier it is to move, change, be well. Many people fear this freedom because they were taught to believe that needing little is failure, that living with simplicity is giving up. But it's choosing consciously, deciding that peace is worth more than impression, that tranquility is worth more than status, that freedom is worth more than accumulation. And when you make this choice, everything changes. You stop being trapped, chasing, being afraid. You're free. And the freedom of needing little is the greatest wealth someone can have. Have you noticed how modern life is full of noise? Excess information, choices, stimuli, possessions. All of this generates a type of fatigue that isn't physical, it's mental. The feeling that your mind never rests, that you're always processing, deciding, filtering. Excess brings confusion, never wealth. The more you have, the more you need to manage, the more decisions you need to make, the more attention you need to give. And this occupies mental space, energy, life. Many people accumulate without noticing the weight of this. They accumulate clothes, objects, commitments, superficial relationships. Everything demands attention, requires maintenance, generates noise. And amid this noise, it's hard to hear what matters, know what you really want, have clarity. A simple life reduces noise, eliminates what's not essential, and creates mental space. When you reduce what you own, you reduce what you need to care for. When you reduce your commitments, you reduce your overload. When you reduce your choices, you reduce your indecision. And in this space that's created, something valuable emerges. Clarity, balance, the possibility of thinking without rush, of feeling without overload, of living without constant noise. Living only with what really matters means having less, but having better, choosing quality instead of quantity. Many people discover this late, after years accumulating, after years overloading themselves. And when they finally reduce, they feel relief, feel they can breathe, feel they have space to live. Excess is weight, simplicity is lightness. And lightness is what allows you to live fully, without noise, without overload, without confusion. Only with the essential. And the essential is always less than you imagine. There's a silent race many people are participating in. A race for status, for recognition, for appearing successful. And in this race, inner peace is left aside, because status requires sacrifice. It requires you to work beyond necessary, to spend beyond what you have, to live according to external expectations. This race leads nowhere. Status is unstable, recognition is fleeting. Prestige depends on the opinion of people you don't even know, and all of this can disappear at any moment. The proposal was different. Something that can't be taken. Tranquility, inner calm, emotional stability. This depends only on you, on your way of living, thinking, choosing. When you seek tranquility instead of status, your priorities change. You stop caring so much about what others think, stop needing to prove something, stop living for appearance, and start living for yourself, for what really makes you well, for what really matters. Success stops being the goal. The goal becomes living well, and living well is living in peace. Many people who have status live in fear of losing position, of being forgotten, of no longer being relevant. And this fear steals tranquility, pleasure, life. Status and tranquility rarely go together because status requires exposure, comparison, constant approval. And all of this disturbs, takes away peace. Those who choose the opposite path, living simply without seeking recognition, without seeking prestige, find something many people never find: peace, stability, freedom. That's real wealth, needing little, being at peace, living well. Everything else is noise. The way you relate to people says a lot about how you relate to yourself. Many people seek in others what they don't find in themselves: validation, completeness, security. And this creates heavy relationships based on neediness, on necessity, on emotional dependence. True friendship was essential for a good life, but not any type of friendship. Friendship based on presence, on genuine exchange, on companionship without demand. True friendship is born from autonomy, never from dependence. You can only truly be present when you don't need the other person to feel whole, when you're not seeking in them something you should find in yourself, when you're well alone and choose to be together because it adds, never because it fills. Relationships based on neediness are unstable, demanding, exhausting, because no one can fill another person's void. No one can be responsible for someone's happiness. And when you expect that, the relationship crumbles. You know this. It's that relationship where you feel incomplete when the person isn't around. It's that friendship where you need constant approval. It's that family where you feel you're never enough. All of this is born from the same root. You're seeking outside what you should cultivate inside. And while you seek, you're hostage. Hostage to others' moods. Hostage to attention that may or may not come. Hostage to approval that's always conditional. Light relationships are those where people meet for pleasure, where each is already well and the other's company makes life even better. That's maturity, the understanding that your peace can't be in another person's hands, that your happiness is your responsibility. When you understand this, your relationships improve. You stop demanding, charging, expecting the other to solve what only you can solve. And you start enjoying companionship without pressure, without expectation, without dependence. The person can be present or not, and you remain well, can agree or disagree, and you remain whole, can leave, and you don't crumble, because your emotional structure doesn't depend on them. This is rare, but it's liberating, both for you and for those with you. Those who live with someone emotionally autonomous feel the difference. Feel they can be who they are without fear of disappointing. Feel the relationship exists by choice, never by necessity. Living in community without depending emotionally on anyone. Being well with yourself and therefore able to be well with others. Without weight, without drama, without neediness. Just presence. And presence is all a true relationship needs. Modern society functions based on a simple principle, making you feel dissatisfied, making you believe you need more, that your life isn't enough, that you're not enough, and that the solution is to consume, buy more, have more, be more. Many desires are born from external messages, from comparison, from manipulation. Advertising exists to create desire, to make you feel the lack of something you didn't even know existed. And when you buy, the feeling of satisfaction is short-lived. Soon a new product emerges, a new version, a new need, and the cycle starts again. You're never satisfied, because dissatisfaction is the engine of consumption. If you were content with what you have, you'd stop buying, and the modern economy can't allow that. So it creates constant dissatisfaction, shows you what others have, makes you feel you're falling behind, convinces you that you need that to be happy. But you buy and are left only with more things, maintaining the same feeling of emptiness. This emptiness is resolved with understanding, with the perception that you already have enough, that your real needs are already met, that what you're seeking isn't in any store, it's in your way of seeing life. When you understand this, consumption loses its force. You stop feeling the lack of things you don't need, stop chasing novelties that don't add, stop believing the next purchase will complete you. And this frees you from anxiety, from comparison, from the endless race. You realize you can live well with less, that you don't need everything they offer you, that your life is already rich, living without being controlled by created desire, without being manipulated by external promises, only meeting real needs and living in peace. Choosing what to have instead of being chosen by what they sell you. There's a simple question: what do you really need to live well? And the answer is equally simple: very little. Basic food, water, shelter, security, companionship, health. Everything else is extra, can add, can bring comfort, but isn't necessary. Confusing what's necessary with what's desirable is a mistake most people make. You need a roof, not a huge house. Need clothing, not brand name clothes. Need food, not sophisticated food. The problem is, society taught you to believe the minimum isn't enough, that you need more to be happy, that living with the basics is failure, but it's freedom. The understanding that you can live well without depending on much. Living with the basics doesn't generate fear, anxiety, or pressure to maintain a standard. Even if everything changed, you'd still be well, because your real needs are simple and can be met with little effort. That's autonomy, stability, peace. When you realize you need little, you stop living in fear, stop worrying so much, stop working beyond necessary, and start living with more lightness, more time, more freedom. Many people discover this late, after years accumulating, after years striving to have more, and when they finally reduce, they feel relief, feel life became simpler, lighter, clearer. Well-being doesn't require excess. Happiness doesn't depend on luxury. Peace comes from simplicity, from understanding you already have enough. And enough is much more than you imagine. The more you desire, the more unstable you become. Desire is movement, search, restlessness. And restlessness is the opposite of serenity. Many people live in constant internal agitation, always wanting more, always dissatisfied, always searching for the next thing. This agitation reflects in emotions: anxiety, frustration, disappointment. Desires never stop and are rarely completely satisfied. Even when you get what you wanted, satisfaction is short-lived, and soon a new desire emerges. You return to the state of lack, to the state of search, to the state of dissatisfaction. This generates emotional instability. Can you remember the last time you were genuinely satisfied for more than a week? There's always something missing, always something to achieve, always something that seems essential. The proposal was to reduce desires, focus only on what's really necessary, and let the rest go. When you do this, your emotions stabilize. You stop chasing, stop being dissatisfied, stop expecting the next achievement to complete you. You're already complete, your needs are met, and you don't need more. This brings balance, stability, inner calm. You stop being shaken by every desire that arises. Stop being dominated by unrealistic expectations. Stop being hostage to constant dissatisfaction. You're well where you are, with what you have, and that's liberating. Many people fear reducing their desires because they think it means giving up or conformity. But it's wisdom, the understanding that less desire means more emotional lightness, that less search means more presence, that less dissatisfaction means more balance. Living with few desires, with few expectations, and with much emotional stability. Serenity is stable. Desire is unstable. And when you choose serenity, you choose a life that depends only on your inner clarity, never on external circumstances. In the end, it all comes down to a choice. You can live chasing, accumulating, desiring endlessly, or you can live with serenity, simplicity, and consciousness. Detachment is the greatest wealth because depending on less makes you free. When you're not attached to anything, nothing controls you. You live without fear of losing, without constant anxiety, without being at the mercy of external circumstances. You're well, regardless of what happens. That's real power. The power of not needing anything, the power of being in inner calm, the power of living without fear. Many people seek material wealth, accumulate goods, achievements, and status, but still don't feel rich. The wealth they seek is in the wrong place. It's in things, and things can be lost. True wealth is in detachment, in the capacity to live well with little, in the freedom of not depending on anything that can be taken. Living with almost nothing made someone rich in tranquility, rich in freedom, rich in serenity. And this couldn't be taken because it didn't depend on external factors, only on the way of living, on understanding what really matters. Think of someone who can lose their job and remain well, who can end a relationship and remain whole, who can see everything change without panicking. That person is free. When you live like this, you realize you don't need much, that your real needs are simple, that happiness is in needing less and never in having more. Detachment isn't loss, it's gain. Gain of freedom, peace, clarity. Many people never reach this understanding. They live their entire lives, accumulating, afraid, dissatisfied, because they never understood that real wealth isn't in things, but in the capacity to live without them. The freedom of needing little is the greatest wealth someone can have, because when you have this freedom, you have everything: peace, stability, calm. And that's worth more than any achievement, any possession, any status. Detachment is the final wealth because it's the only one that can't be taken from you. The simple life is born from consciousness, never from romanticizing poverty or the privilege of those who already have everything. It's the understanding that inner emptiness isn't filled with accumulation, that happiness doesn't depend on external achievements, that peace comes from needing less. This ancient wisdom remains relevant because human nature hasn't changed. Desire is still there. Dissatisfaction is still there. Fear is still there. And the solution also remains the same: clarity, consciousness, detachment. If you want to live well, understand your desires, separate the essential from the superfluous, reduce what disturbs, and live with tranquility. That's real wealth. If this video made sense to you, subscribe to the channel and leave your like. And in the comments, tell me, what did you realize you no longer need to live well?